Lindsay, my first thought was, I've got a relationship going back to when I was at John Carroll, James Madison with Damar's high school team. He went to Pittsburgh Central Catholic. I recruited him when he was 15 years old. A lot of his teammates. I know his head coach, Terry Totten, really well at Pittsburgh Central Catholic. So, this is a great kid. It's a great kid. This guy, one of the best players to ever play at Central. He was an incredible player at Pitt. So it just was a little bit more personal because you know this guy, you know his teammates. And Ronaldo Hill, our defensive coordinator, coached and recruited him at Pitt. His wife, Tay, was his academic advisor. Chris Beatty, my wideout coach, coached him for 2 years at Pitt. So this was a really personal thing for us. And I think that, the first thing was just the prayers for him and his family, prayers for the Bills, his teammates and his coaches and everybody that's involved within that organization, prayers for the Bengals and their players because they were sharing the field that night. And you just know that if you're a part of this game, when something like that happens, it impacts so many people. But I think that, just have total respect and admiration for Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor and the way they handled a, truly rare, one-of-a-kind type situation. Just so much respect for both of them. And, I think since that play, you've seen that what football does is it brings people together, and the power of prayer and, what you've been able to see since is what I think makes football special. And, from our organization to the Bills, we send all of our prayers, our deepest prayers to Damar and his family, the Bills players and organization, the Bengals, and everybody that's involved with pro football.
Just with your players, obviously, it's a tough thing to watch as a football player, somebody in the NFL. How do you sort of manage that among your players this week?
I think the big thing is telling them the truth of what happened, what actually happened on the field from a medical perspective. And that's what we try to do is activate Dr. Eugene Yim, one of our team physicians, and hey, this is what actually happened, on the field that day so that everybody, knows the truth of that. And then, also understanding that there were a lot of amazing things on the field that night, that the medical personnel, that they were there, they were prepared, and, I think the NFL and its protocols are a big reason why this guy's got a chance to make it, and I thought you saw the best of the NFL that night coming together to save his life. And I think you saw, the special part of the NFL fraternity of those two teams coming together and the way they handled it and the, just the grace of both of those teams and the courage and the strength. I just think that was something that we wanted to do with our team, is have Dr. Yim talk to our team, and then Dr. Herb Martin, George Gregory, our chaplain. You want to involve all the people around your team to share with your players what's going on and to be there for them. And that's what you got to do in a situation like that, is you got to be there for your guys. And because this is going to hit people differently, and it's going to hit at different places maybe and spaces in time. And what we want to do is make sure that every step of the way that we're there. And so, like I said, that's what makes football special.
How are Ronaldo and Chris doing, just seeing as they are personally pretty close to the situation?
Yeah, Lindsay, I think they're both hanging tough. I think it's just when you know someone and you've invested in someone, you know how special they are. This kid's living his dream, and to be able to see him at such a young age, and now to be one of their starting players, and just a guy that's like I said, just a young kid living his dream. It's I think it hits you. It's really heavy, but at the same time, you're hopeful, and you know how special of a person he is, and special of a kid he is. So we're just praying for him, and again, like I said, I think this is going to bring everybody closer together for sure.
Even more of a shock, Brandon, because it was a cardiac event. I mean, I know everybody talks about concussions and different types of injuries throughout the league, but really cardiac issues are, at least in game, or the furthest thing from anybody's mind, because they come up more in physicals than during games.
Right. I think that's the thing about that everyone's learning about what happened, is just truly how rare that case is, and just that perfect sequencing and that right amount of trauma, that right sequencing and the heart's rhythm. You know, I think we're learning like everybody else, and I think that's what's important for our players to understand, is the truth of what happened. And it's one of those accidents that's a part of life. And like I said, now our focus is just on the prayer and lifting him up and everybody else up around him, and that's where our focus is going to be.
Can you share just kind of the mental side, some of the mental health kind of resources that the players and you and some of your coaches have just during this difficult time?
Yeah, I think that the NFL did a good job of getting all the clubs together, and I think having an open forum of what each club was going to do, and kind of thoughts for how to proceed. And I think that we've got a tremendous team in house led by Dr. Herb Martin, and like I said, Dr. Eugene Yim, and the medical side of things. But from a mental health standpoint too, is that Arthur Hightower, our director of player development. I think what you want to establish with your guys is that when something like this happens, everyone handles it differently. Some people want to handle it right away. Some people may need some space. Some people need to do things one-on-one. Some people in small groups or a big group. And so you just want to make sure that you offer all those avenues for your players, and that it's not just today that you're talking about it, that you're available for them throughout. And it's that consistency of your presence and understanding that, we're all in it together, and then in your own way, living an example to help raise Damar up, because that's the most important thing, is to lift him up and those around him, and all the things that the NFL has done, is doing. Since that game, you can see what people have done for his GoFundMe page, for his charity, and what people are doing for the Bills players and the Bengals players, and throughout the entire NFL. I think that's amazing what's happened in such a short amount of time.
How do you guys transition from handling this and discussing this to then getting ready for a football game?
Yeah, Lindsay, I think it's important, that transition. I think that you have to have the right amount of perspective and the right amount of focus in both places, and I think that you do that by knowing your players, by knowing your guys, and I think that's why you got to have close football teams and close football organizations, so that you kind of know what that right touch is. But when you move forward to this week for us, which is Denver, and this football game, it's again knowing that you have to be able to do both of these things at the same time. You have to be able to deal with what happened, and also do your job and live your dream at the same time, and that there's work to do this week, and that you have to be able to do both of those things. And so that's where our focus has been, is kind of defining the week. Hey, this is going to be our rhythm and routine. This is what we need to get accomplished and how we need to do it. And then at the same time, once all that's done, hey, then we also need to address what happened the other night too, and you can do all that at the same time, and you lean into the leaders of your football team, whether it's coach, player, organizationally, and it's going to take everybody in order to get it done.
Brandon, is there some level of comfort knowing that the medical people were on it? I mean, they were out there within seconds, finding out what was wrong and getting to work.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I think everyone's discovering, is just how incredible the response was, and the poise, and I think the level of expertise, the capacity of the people on that field that night, and what they were able to do. They're well trained, and I think that all of us can take a huge lesson from that. It's one of those once-in-a-lifetime moments. It's a once-in-a-lifetime moment that requires a once-in-a-lifetime response. And I think the people in Cincinnati that night showed that they were ready. And that's what the NFL is about. Like on game day, you're going to have, I think, Dr. Yim said there's probably over 30 people, and then all the resources that are on an NFL football field for these guys to be ready for that moment. And, just really proud of those people, and just admire them in every way, because it's amazing.
This situation for your game changed a little bit this morning when the Ravens game time was released. So you guys will know probably about the time you're kicking off whether you have to win or not. How will you try to handle that situation in real time?
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, we're definitely going to prepare this week to try and go win this football game with the guys that we have on our team, the 48 guys that are going to be up. Similar situation happened for me in Chicago in 2018. We were already in the playoffs, but there was potential for us to have a first-round bye. The Rams needed to lose, and we kind of were going to know the result of that game as it was happening, and the Rams were out to a big lead, and we knew that we weren't going to be the 2 seed. We weren't going to have that bye. So I have a little bit of experience with that, but I think it just goes back to what I said all along about the approach is like you got to take the facts on the ground as they happen in real time to make your determinations, and so that's what we're going to do. Once we find out about that game, then we'll make the appropriate decisions moving forward and just take it case by case. And obviously we're not going to know that till Sunday. But our approach this week is to go beat the Broncos and to play our best.
For someone like Chase Daniel or some of those other backups, will they get more snaps in practices? Or,
No.
Same game?
Yeah, same preparation thought. Yep.
How's Derwin doing?
Good. He'll be at practice tomorrow.
How does it feel just to be, it's a long marathon of a season, now you're at the finish line, but knowing you have more ahead of you, just to get to this point of the season in a positive
Yeah, I think your engine's got to get, you got to get that, whatever you want to call it, that extra energy, because you're headed towards something, and I think that for us is we've been able to play well down the stretch, and that's still the goal is to continue to improve as a football team and, to make this team as good as it can be headed into the playoffs. And so this is a big game for us. This is a quality football team, as they've demonstrated throughout the season. They've been in a lot of close games. They have a lot of quality players. And so, they've got a lot of players that are going to really challenge us this week, and they've got a lot of things that we need to improve on, heading into the playoffs. So it's going to be a big week for us for sure.
Justin? Go ahead.
Justin was listed on the injury report with a left shoulder. Do you know what happened there?
Yeah, just like I said after the game, just kind of bumps and bruises from the game, but he'll be full of practice tomorrow.